Today it's Kansas, Kansas State, Iowa State, and also West Virginia as a part of the pod. And here we go, guys. We start
the Big 12 North pod.
The Big 12 North pod. We're going to start naming them, and each of the pods will be a part of the group of 4.
I do want to mention real quick, though, streets are talking. Any way Utah can go to the Pac with these new schools? Big 12 fans want to know if that's at all possible after these first couple of weeks.
Yeah, they run the table. The answer is going to be yes. I know you're talking about with the fan base at times, some of them. All right, Kansas coming off the loss to Illinois, who might be pretty good. Brett Bielema always seems to have good teams where he goes. Kansas at home, ESPN tomorrow night, and UNLV, and pretty good football team. That game will kick off at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it's an interesting schedule this week. It's not as Power 5 on Power 5 heavy as last week's was, where you had 9 games that were that way, and then you had Tulane versus K-State as well in New Orleans, which made that really interesting. But there are some interesting games this week, and this is certainly one of those because of how well UNLV has started off, and also the fact that Kansas dropped what should have been a win at Illinois last week. Guess what Kansas fans are mad at right now? Jeff Grimes and his play calling, because they've got a backfield of Neal and Highshaw and others that could have salted that game away for them last week, and instead he, for whatever reason, elected to get away from the run, and they did not fare well by doing that. So that was something that definitely was a bee in the bonnet of KU fans, was the play calling and just what they tried to do offensively. I do think it probably cost them that game last week, but you're back at home, and I think you're respecting UNLV based on what you've seen and based on what you know of them. So coming off a loss, you should bounce back. I think we'll see a real commitment to that run game once again. Jalen Daniels does not look like the Jalen Daniels that you hoped for when you were projecting, all right, he's coming back, or is he coming back? Is he coming back? Okay, he's coming back. He's coming back. Great. What does he look like is now the next question. And so far, he looks like a guy who hadn't played a lot of football in the last couple of years and is a little dinged by his injuries. So, that was the story for KU last week, was the getting away from the run, and also just Jalen Daniels trying to find his sea legs. But I do think they should win this game, although it's going to be tough, man. I'm not going to just put it past UNLV that they're not going to give them a run for their money.
Jayhawk champ. Grimes didn't throw the 3 picks, though, but he can do better.
Yeah, you're fair. Yeah. But like when your quarterback's throwing picks, why are you still having him throw the ball around when you got those great running backs? And that was part of the deal.
Yeah. Just knowing that we have Max in a second, I will say this to Jeff Grimes. Jeff, buddy, love you. Run the ball.
Yeah.
You've got 2 workhorses. One who's a workhorse, one who's a thoroughbred. Man, they're gonna knock people around. Go knock people around. Take the pressure off JD for sure.
Could be a big Friday night if you're a KU or Kansas State fan, because Kansas State will host Arizona, 2 top 20 teams. Non-conference game though, on at 7 o'clock, and that game's on the Big Fox.
Yeah, thank you to whoever the KU fan was that mentioned that, because that's very valid. That's very fair. He's got 4 picks, and that's part of the not being the big bright star that you were hoping was going to be at maximum capacity talent-wise coming back. So that's very fair. But, K-State, this offense is a work in progress. That was very evident last week. We all figured that the trip to New Orleans against a team like Tulane with a coach like John Summerall, it's like, yeah, sure, you lost Willie Fritz, but you got a pretty dang good quarterback. You still got talented players. You brought in guys through the transfer portal. You got former, guys like Mario Williams, who was at Oklahoma, once upon a time, playing receiver for you. So this is always going to be a tough test, all those things considered, and it was. And they were very fortunate to walk out of here with a win. I think this is a combination of a young quarterback who's very, very talented, but is still a very young quarterback who hasn't played a ton of football as the man. It's also an offensive line that's a work in progress because of all you had to replace from last year. Their defense is everything's a work in progress right now, except for maybe a skill guy here and there. So they were just lucky to get that one and get back home. And now this is a really intriguing game with Arizona, obviously. That's not a Big 12 game, but is that weird quirk on the schedule. So that defense better get ready for Fafita and McMillan. But that offense has got to just keep playing and hope that more snaps will lead to better rhythm and cohesion on that side of the ball. And new OC as well.
K-State at home against Arizona. Paul, we quickly on your thoughts on that one. K-State, of course, Man, this is going to be a hell of a good game.
I think they can contain Tedero McMillan better than most can, but it's still going to be a challenge. I think you kind of maybe have to do like what the people did when the Lakers had Kobe Bryant, was sometimes you just knew that Kobe was going to get his. If you could keep everybody else from scoring, then that's fine. If Kobe has 50 and everybody else has 30 and you have 81 points, you're good. But so maybe that's what you kind of have to do with Tedero McMillan. I still want to see Avery Johnson kind of pass the ball a lot better.
Iowa State has the week off, emotionally on and up after the last-second game-winning walk-off field goal to beat arch rival. Yes, and it wasn't chip shot either. A great win for the Cyclones in Iowa Stadium.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly a walk-off because I think Iowa had like one play after that, but it was pretty much a walk-off, and that was a great win on the road for the Cyclones. They stole that one. They didn't really have any business winning that game, but they played so well in the second half and gave themselves a chance. And obviously there at the end, the big moment, the young kicker came through for you, and that's not always the case, especially in college football with just kickers who are seventh-year guys. You don't know what you're going to get half the time, much less young guys. So that took some cojones. And just what an incredible moment that had to be for Iowa State to be in enemy territory, backs against the wall, looking like a loss, and to rally and then send Iowa fans home with that. That just had to be such a great feeling. Now you get to celebrate it longer because you've got the bye week, so you get to kind of enjoy it a little bit more. But they look good. They're one of the top upper-tier teams in the Big 12, and that was a great win.
All right, so Iowa State off this week. And then, of course, you have West Virginia. At Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh with a win against Cincinnati. The Mountaineers, obviously, Craig, need a bounce-back feel-good after Penn State.
Well, they got that somewhat last week with the tune-up game and Albany, and that was, a nice win for what it was. They still kind of looked spotty in some ways, but it was just good to get a W, wash the Penn State game out of your mouth a little bit. And this one here, I mean, you want to talk about putting Neil Brown back on the hot seat. Go lose to Pitt. Go lose to Pitt and see what the West Virginia fans have to say when you're 1-2. It's one thing to lose to the Nittany Lions. I mean, that's kind of sort of a rivalry, more for you than for them. But the Pitt game that's a rivalry. And so this one means a lot. And this is a game that Neil Brown needs to win. And they're not flying as high as they were before the season started because of the way these first two games have gone, just in terms of the disrespect and this and that. So, yeah, I think it's very important that they have a good showing here and definitely important to grab a win.